Hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Michał, Lutek, and I have the honor to moderate this panel on AI governance. Together with me on stage, we have JP. We have Wojciech, Jakub, and Jan. I will just pass the mic over to them to briefly introduce themselves. And then we will start off with a quick introduction to AI use cases and generally to how AI can be implemented in the gaming industry. I bet most of you know it, but just to be on the same page for everyone, we'll start off with a quick presentation run by Jan and Kuba, but let's kick off with the presentation of our great panelists. JP, if you could introduce yourself.
So I'm Jari-Pekka Kaleva, Managing Director of EGDF, that represents 24 trade associations from 23 different European countries in Brussels. On the future of AI regulatory framework in the EU is of course one of our key topics.
Thank you. My name is Wojciech Piszewski. I'm an advocate and counsel in Rymarz, Zdort, Maruta law firm, as you can clearly see on my t-shirt. And I deal on an everyday basis with the mainly privacy and compliance with digital regulation issues today, AI.
Hello guys, so my name is Kuba Jankowski. I'm a lawyer as well. I'm an advocate. I've been working with the game industry for almost 6 years now, 5 of which I spent at CDPR, the PROJEKT. And at CDPR, I mainly take care of things related to intellectual property. So I help our developers with anything and everything connected with our video games in terms of intellectual property. I also help with music and, in general, conducting our business.
Hey, I'm Wosiura. I'm a general counsel for Artifex Mundi. We make mobile games.
And I represent SPIDOR, one of the two biggest Polish trade association governing game dev companies and console producers, which is a great honor to be here with you today. As you can see in the background, we have two AI-generated images. I asked the website to create an image that would represent our panel today. Luckily, the turnout is equally as great as on the image on the right side. And the representation of gender is also equal to our. Apparently, AI doesn't acknowledge women in games, which is quite disturbing. But there are a lot of initiatives of the gaming sector to promote and to include women in games, which is something that has to be also considered. So as I said, I would like to ask Jan and Kuba to get us going in the area of AI. I would ask them to present some use cases of AI in the gaming industry, because it's far more than just generative AI that I used for the background of our panel. So guys, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michał. So, let us start with the basics. Let us start with how AI is used in the gaming industry, right? So, first of all, this is an example that I found somewhere on the internet, right, of how generative AI specifically can be used in the gaming industry, right? So obviously you've got the 2D art that is created, that is used within the games, as Michał showed just a second ago. But you also have 3D asset generation. You've also got the textures, the asset management, world building, even the level design. The whole levels can be created using AI. And then again, it's not the end, right? You've got things like creating the characters, the NPCs, and also audio. It is more and more common, for example, to see audio, especially voiceovers, generated by AI being used in the video games, right? And obviously, this will come with some legal issues, with some legal risks, right? Because there are always some when a new technology emerges. So what are they for generative AI specifically? So first and foremost, the ability of AI to, or the risk of AI to infringe upon rights of the other people. I think it's clear to everyone in here that this AI-generated image that I generated myself, basically, Midjourney generated for me, could infringe rights of Disney, right? It is very recognizable. It is a very recognizable character in here, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that virtually everywhere around the world, we've got this acceptance, let's say, in the jurisdictions, in the legal systems, that you have to have human creativity, human created things, basically, in order to have them copyright protected. So far, maybe apart from the UK, there is no legal system that recognizes AI created work as work that is protected by copyrights. What does it mean for everyone? Well, it means that if you were to create something for your video game using AI, well, you could, in theory, use it as long as it is not infringing upon the rights of other people, right? But the problem is that so could everyone else. Someone could take the character, for example, that you created using AI and take it for their own video game, their book, their TV series, and you wouldn't have an ability to protect your rights because there aren't any. And the third thing is confidentiality, or rather lack thereof. The problem is that the currently available tools on the market, they don't really protect confidentiality of information that is being put in the tool. In many cases, the tools learn on the basis of the input of the prompts that you create, and that's problematic. But also, there is absolutely, well, for most of the tools, there is absolutely no obligation of confidentiality of information on the side of service provider. So you put the information there, they can use it however they want. For some tools, it is even a feature of theirs that they show not only the output that was created using the tool, but also the input that you put there somewhere publicly, for example, on their website. And this is it when it comes to generative AI. I will also let Jan say a bit more about other types of uses of artificial intelligence and other legal risks.
Thank you, Kuba.
Thanks. All right, so Kuba said about all of these things that are beautiful, cool, and dandy, and I'm here to talk about more grim side of AI use cases. How many of you played Skyrim? Raise your hands. All right, now we're talking. How many of you seen this mod to Skyrim about a year ago, which showed that you can use ChatGPT to have an unscripted conversation with an NPC? Yeah, all right. So I've seen this mod too, and I mean, the gamer in me was like, yeah, it is finally happening. I can just go to Whiterun, I can have an unscripted conversation about a recipe for a salmon I just caught somewhere down the river. And then the lawyer in me said, hey, oh my God, there is an AI, you can use it in game, you can have an NPC say unscripted things to your players, and you can't influence it, or you can't influence this enough to make it safe. And so the AI had spoken. I ruined my punchline. All right, AI has spoken, and it is stupid. these can all be applied to game dev. So, I mean, if a chatbot can invent a policy for Air Canada, that's a fake refund policy, imagine you ask AI to do your customer support for you, with all of the players asking you for refunds. Imagine you use AI, and this is going to happen. People are going to start to at least try to deploy AI to be the first line of support and first line for, let's say, community management. AI is going to install these people. This is all liability for you as a game developer. And AI is not perfect at, on the other side, as a content moderator either, as you can see. We are going to use AI to flag conversations. We are going to use it to ban people. I think this is already happening. I'm not going to call out any company names here, but I think, I mean, we can at least suspect which companies are using AI at this point to be at least the first line of defense in chat moderation. And we are going to have freedom of speech issues because of this unreasonable, to say the least, banning. But that's not the worst thing that can happen with AI. And yeah, so for many years, what we do in general for live service games, which is the majority of the market at this point, is we use data to try to understand how players play their games and where is the space in which we can sell virtual items to them. And now, for many years, this happened with the use of personal data, in most cases advertising ID, which is kind of a digital social security number. With AI, you may no longer need this advertising ID. You can, instead of behavioral advertising, use so-called contextual advertising. And this is both good and bad. It's amazing for developers because you are no longer exposed, or let's say less exposed for the GDPR regulations and privacy regulations worldwide. But on the other thing, how many of you had, let's say, a role on TikTok or on Instagram in which you just thought you're going to look at one or two roles, and an hour or two later you're just what's happening? Why I'm still looking at this? This is what's going to happen in gaming with use of AI in advertising. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ian. We had an example of Elon Musk on one slide before, and Elon Musk himself called for a proactive approach to AI regulation, stating that if we will be if we are gonna act reactively, then the AI might take control over us, which is the worst case scenario. So having in mind this super fast development of AI and in tech in general, what tools and what mechanisms should we use to regulate, and how to approach AI when it comes to regulatory framework? What are your insights, JP, because you work closely with policymakers, and what's the general approach towards regulating AI these days?
So at the moment, I would say that among the policymakers, there is a general perhaps a misunderstanding of like what AI is, how it works. So that kind of awareness rising is clearly needed, something that we as a trade associations are trying to do. Another thing that people are often forgetting is that AI doesn't happen in some kind of vacuum. It doesn't create a new field that is completely unregulated. We already have a vast regulatory framework for the AI, regulatory framework that applies to AI as well. GDPR has specific clauses on automated decision making. Our copyright framework has specific clauses on text and data mining. Our consumer protection framework has very clear clauses on protection of the vulnerable consumers and unfair commercial practices. All these apply to games, and regardless of the AI being used them or not. And now the AI Act creates the next layer of the transparency and liability on top of that. So The question really perhaps is not so much the lack of regulation, but what is really on the table at the moment is the enforcement part. Because all these regulatory framework has specific enforcement bodies who should now step in, like data protection officers, consumer protection authorities, then we have AI office, DSA and DMA enforcement authorities. And all of them should somehow regulate the AI and related issues at the moment. So we need coordination, we need harmonized implementation, and first of all, we need more guidance from these enforcement authorities how we should use the existing regulatory framework to address the issue in the AI world. So the key, I would say, is not really the new regulation. The key is enforcement of the existing regulatory framework. But this doesn't mean that there wouldn't be now a big debate on AI. There will be a lot of things happening in the next Commission term, and for sure this debate will pop out in the digital fairness discussion or on the copyright side. But what will happen is that it will take 1 or 2 years for the European Commission to introduce the first draft, and it will take 1 or 2 or 3 years to actually reach an agreement between the Council and the European Parliament, and we need 2 years for some kind of transition period. So, well, it will be 2030s before we have any rules. So enforcement, that's where the magic happens at the moment.
Yeah, the reality in 2030 would be totally different. So the
Absolutely.
norms would not follow the tech development and the surrounding in the digital sphere. From your perspective, Wojciech, as an external counsel, how do you see this problem of governing and regulating AI?
Exactly. I planned to say a few words about different regulations, but JP and gentlemen here already covered that. So I try to focus on something else. I would say more generally that I believe that regulation cannot catch the pace of technology in general, and that's something that actually can't be done. It's true with any kind of technology, but especially true with AI, because I would say that changes there just count in months, not in years. So actually some way of using AI and some tools, AI tools, AI system that we were unimaginable for us like a few months ago, now they are our reality. So that can be done. That's one thing. And conversely, on the let's say the second thing is that it's totally different with the lawmaking process. And as JP here said already, we have years to just develop certain regulations. It's a very good example with the AI Act because it took more than 3 years to actually find a compromise text that's been voted in the parliament. And of course, you've seen already, or you may heard of different, let's say, actors that motivated by political or economical motivation, they did try to interfere with this process. So it made that even more lengthy process. And as gentlemen here presented, I was few examples of how AI is used within the games. I'm pretty much convinced that that is just a tip of an iceberg, and that in months we can see more and more of that. And actually that's the second factor that make the regulatory impossible to catch the pace of technology changes. So first one is just technology as such, because technology is too fast in the advancement, in the changes that happen. And the second thing is the creativity of gaming companies, for example, that still can invent new ways of using it. And answering directly the question how regulatory can adapt to this, I would say something that, and here I agree with JP in 100%, that it won't, but in a way it has already adapted. So actually I would say that we've seen that with the GDPR regulation, we can observe it now with the AI Act or some cybersecurity regulations also. So we don't have this very specific regulation that will give you like instruction what to do. So what key points to cover to build AI Act compliance? Yes, so you will not be given with such instructions. Instead of that, you have more goal-oriented regulation. So the regulation that will tell you you have to build up, let's say, high protection of your personal data, or the regulation as an AI Act that will tell you you have to mitigate the risk associated with the use of AI systems. So that's one thing. And that's second key issue when it comes to, let's say, adoption of the regulation or this trying to catch the AI system is risk-based approach. And that's clearly visible on the example of AI Act. So just to put it in simple words, the EU came with the idea we will not regulate everything. We will not regulate every AI system, every way of using it, but we will instead focus only on those, let's say, way of using artificial intelligence that create important risks. And let's skip placing some unnecessary burdens of the other systems. So that's one thing, and that's important. This risk-based approach is important because of that I believe that it will be crucial thing to approach what we have in the title of our panel, what is AI governance. And this approach, when you just focus on things that are important, on the systems and the way of using the system that creates risk, is a key point to actually build something what AI governance may be. And what it is, we will tell probably later on.
Later on, that's what I hope for. But from the in-house perspective, Kuba, Jan, as in-house lawyers, do you see any room for self-regulation of AI-based tools in an organization? Is there any room for, let's say, soft law and auto-regulation that is quite common in other businesses?
Certainly, and we just need to talk, and hopefully this is what we're doing right now. There is room, and there is a lot of call from developers and from heads of studios to develop responsible rules for AI. So you can have industry, let's say, soft regulations. We can all agree that we're not going to use AI which is data mined without any, let's say, any thought for the creators. This is something we can discuss, this is something we can do, and as we discuss this between ourselves without any public information yet, I mean, this is what I hear from everyone.
I wholeheartedly agree with Jan, and we've been talking about the legal matters a lot. Obviously, it's a legal panel. However, there are so many different factors that are to be taken from the perspective of a game developer, especially a big game developer, right? The ethics of using certain tools, even if something is legal, is it ethical from our perspective? The view of players and employees on AI, right? And so it's very important from the perspective of a video game developer to not only focus on what's legal, what's not legal, or what will be legal or not legal in a few years, but also what's acceptable and unacceptable in the industry. What will bring employees to me, for example, and what will drive them away. And this is very much the reason for self-regulation. This is a reason why I believe it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's indeed a very complex process, and which needs to be seen from numerous perspectives. But we've discussed IP today. We've discussed privacy. What other, or maybe these are the only two areas that need an external intervention from the lawmakers? Are there any other fields that you think JP would require regulating immediately when it comes to the use of AI, or maybe there are some other aspects? What's your view on this point?
So at the moment, as I said, there is already a lot of regulation existing. One of the areas I would say is rather under-regulated from the game developer perspective is the non-negotiable P2P contracts on when they are fair and when they are unfair. But it's not anyhow linked only with the AI. We have we saw the impact of those standard contract terms when the Unity changed them last autumn. We have seen those issues with services by Google and Alphabet in general, how they can be really problematic. So that's perhaps the one area where I would say that more regulation would be needed, but that's a wider topic than just an AI on how to build some kind of rules for unfair, non-negotiable P2P contracts. And especially in the context, of course, generative AI, who in some cases, when you read the small print, well, you give quite a lot away compared to some other services, so there clearly are some unfair practices on that side.
Yeah, so we have already, let's say, contractual challenges, IP, privacy. Anything else from your perspective, Wojciech? When clients come to your law firm, do they address any particular challenges with AI and lack of regulations?
I mean, challenges, yes, but lack of regulation, no. So I would say that the regulation is already there. So in that sense that we have, as you mentioned, GDPR, contractual law, we have consumer protection law, we have IP law, copyright, namely, and actually I do believe that it's enough for us, even though we are lawyers in here, but we don't need more regulation. What we need now is just, let's say, understanding some constructions, legal constructions, from a bit new perspective. So this new perspective is something that we, for example, we ask ourselves a question, how to train the algorithm basing on publicly available data. Is it fair or is it not fair? That's the first one. Let's say GDPR questions, whether consent given by the gamers, is it enough to process the data, even though actually this consent is, let's say, asked or posed in a way that actually it's impossible to say no in a certain context. Of course, we have IP problems already mentioned here by Kuba, and I would say that once more I agree with that. So new, potentially new questions, how to learn how to teach algorithms without infringing third-party rights, but also the let's say practical point of view, what to do with the outcome of let's say our prompting to the different AI systems, whether and how it is can be safeguarded, if not by copyright. But let's say if we have a bigger picture, look at the bigger picture, then apart from those typical spheres, areas of law that we as lawyers we deal with, there is of course the confidentiality, trade secrets, and that has also this very practical side. So there are some data that, let's say 70 or 80%, I don't recall exact number of employees, use some LLMs, so these large language models in their work. And some big percent of them put different data, so contractual data, secrecy data, into the prompting. So actually no one cares what's inside. We would just have hope that we will find out find interesting outcomes, but we don't really care about the input. So I would say that's one thing. Of course, cybersecurity threats to that, so for usage, but the simplest one is not reading T's and C's. So all those tools that we mentioned have them somewhere, and actually you can find some interesting information in there. So for example, you can find that no one guarantees anything, and that prompting or asking the same question twice can give you different output each time. So that's another risk. It's not strictly legal risk, but I would say also some business-oriented risk. So actually that you cannot rely on the outcome, because you ask some questions, and if you want to rely on the answer, you will be given two different outcomes, two different answers, depending whether you prompted it on Monday or on Friday, for example. So that's also important. So I would say that we have to, as lawyers, learn how to interpret law in the context of the emergence of the AI systems. But as a business, we have to take care of the, let's say, everyday use of these simplest AI tools. So I know that we showed today some very specific way of using it, but I would say that the risk for now lays in this everyday business. So in our people that we have on board and the way how they use these everyday tools, it's problematic from that perspective.
Jan has already shown us today that AI is not the best at keeping secrets, so privacy and secrecy, trade-wise as well, is something that is at stake with AI. You wanted to...
Yeah, I wanted to pick up about
Sure.
something Wojciech said about consumer law. I mean, there are consumer law, they do regulate consumer offerings, but I'm not entirely certain they're ready for AI. The idea of AI in advertising is that you're going to have a black box solution. So how many of you have seen any movie with AlphaGo or how it came to be? I mean, it shows that with AI, it presents solutions, but you're not, as a person, as a human, you have no idea why it suggests these solutions. So you may have an AI that creates offerings for you in-game, and you have no idea whether this is in compliance with consumer law or not. There's going to be a panel about dark patterns. AI technically may create a dark pattern without you even realizing it.
Yeah, so our main focus in this panel is AI governance, and I think we are now ready to address it fully. What do you understand as AI governance in the gaming sector and AI governance in general? Because it's this term is a little bit, let's say, more specific than just AI, and speaking of a risk, which is evident, for example, in the AI Act, which has been mentioned as well. But what do you see as AI governance, Wojciech? Where do you see the major challenges with AI governance?
I try to let's say avoid any legal definitions.
We can skip this.
Yeah, but from the practical point of view, this AI governance is just the way how the business handle AI systems. So let's say that refers to the set of guidance, procedures, processes, all covering and making sure that certain entity use AI systems in a way that will be in line with the law, with some ethics standards mentioned here. So all those things that put together make sure that we know what we are doing from the legal perspective to avoid risks. And simply saying that's AI governance, but of course that's not that easy. So you have, let's say, different dimensions of this AI governance. And I would say that there's like no one-size-fits-all approach will not be suitable here. So actually AI governance will look completely different in a big company, big gaming company with many business units or complicated structure and so on, and the one that is using AI for multiple reasons in multiple business processes. And it will be something totally different in a small company that, for example, just allows employees to use ChatGPT to help them, I don't know, to create marketing slogans or something like that. So it depends. And of course, from that, what we can see as people on board in gaming companies, for example, this AI governance will be typically some procedures, guidelines on how to use AI. And accordingly to what I've just said, in some companies it will be just simple guidelines sent through the email. In other, it will be a whole bunch of procedures that you'll have to read and try to understand and so on. So it depends. There is no one right answer, but that's the general what AI governance is. And one more sentence, what is it for? Because it's also important. So typical lawyer's answer would be that it's to avoid risks, and that's true, of course.
Or to mitigate them.
Or to mitigate risk, yes, because lawyers would say that it's not possible to avoid risk, but yeah, you're right. But I would say that, and it's something that I try to strongly emphasize in the projects connected with implementing AI governance, that it can be also beneficial for the business. So for some business processes, I know it's not easy to imagine that it can be beneficial and that procedures can be beneficial for the business purposes. But I do believe so that, let's say, being conscious, aware of the risk and how you use data, how you structure data in your organization, make those processes, let's say, more thoughtful or well organized, and it can be beneficial in some aspects for the business. It's difficult, but still, I still believe it's possible.
Yeah, so again, we have a sort of soft law regulations, policies, internal policies, guidelines. JP, do you see the same discussion? You represent the EGDF. Do you see the same discussion with your member companies? Do they see the need to implement internal policies on AI use, or is it just some local thing here in Poland?
First of all, we have trade associations as our members, and the companies are members of them. But all around Europe, the debate on AI has now started, and definitely the AI Act discussions will push that forward. And I think it reminds me a lot on early days of the GDPR implementation, in a sense that now our members are waking up on this topic as an AI Act is coming, and then these processes of mainstreaming policies on how to use AI. On how to use AI tools in the companies are now emerging. Some are a little bit ahead, some are a little bit behind, and then you share best practices among the companies. In the end, it's also just important that everyone in the company understands, as you said, that what to do when the AI tools are used, and at the same time you need to understand how those tools work and what kind of impact they might have on the players. At the same time, we also have to keep in mind that this is not only something for the game developer studios, this is something for our society in general. And also on the government side, the enforcement authorities have to start now collaborating more. And I think one of the most interesting, tiny, but very significant news on the European level was that there was a small EU Commission newsletter headline saying that because of the enforcement of the DMA, they are going to bring together a Consumer Protection Authority, the European Data Protection Board, and DMA enforcement authorities and DSA, and potentially the AI office on some day. So we already now see that EU is creating this kind of super board of enforcers, and that will have a huge impact. But we need something similar on the member state level as well. Of course, there has to be a coherence between how the different enforcement authorities see the AI. But most importantly, we need more guidance. It cannot be that you have to call for Deloitte or KPMG or whatever big consulting company. Sorry if there are someone from there, but like ideally the way the system should work is that as the regulations are coming from the government, you should be able to contact those enforcement authorities just like you contact tax authority to ask for advice. And have this kind of dialogue between the enforcement authorities and the sector in order to have this kind of dialogue on how the governance should work. And that's an equally important part of AI governance. It's not just a company level thing, it's a societal level thing and system you have to build up.
Yeah, it's happening in Poland as well. It's been announced recently that the new authority will be established controlling the use of AI. The Ministry of Digital Affairs came up with this idea after the public consultation on the implementation of AI Act, and that's quite a topic for discussion as well, whether it's the best approach to create a new authority or to use existing ones, like Consumer Protection Authority, for example, with this overlap on DSA, DMA, it's inevitable. But coming back to risk, because risk mitigation and elimination is something that we as lawyers strive for. When we have a new studio, a new developer coming to you, trying to use AI-based solution, where which areas are mostly affected by the risk coming with the use of AI? Where is the major focus on this risky behavior with AI tools?
So, as an IP lawyer, I will of course say IP. So intellectual property.
Luckily, we have three different representations here, so we will have IP point of view and two more, hopefully.
Yeah, but to be honest, it all depends on how your organization wants to use AI and what kind of tools they want to use. Generally, I would say that video game companies, at least the bigger ones, are divided into those three different sectors, I would say, right? So you've got the development, you've got the publishing, and you've got the back office. So for all of those different kinds of sectors, you'll have different kinds of tools being used and different kinds of risks, naturally. With the development, which I think is the most important to most of the audience here, the most important risks are, of course, connected with, in my honest opinion, with intellectual property, with infringing rights of other people in your own game, and in coming up with something that was created by AI and losing ability to freely protect it. These, I think, are the most crucial things, and so how to avoid it, right? What to do? I believe that education is key, education for your own employees, right? So what I would suggest doing is, first of all, setting up some ground rules depending on what kind of AI tools are going to be used and where, right? Second thing is trainings. So teaching people how AI works, how AI works in the context of law, basically, right? We don't want them to become doctors in it, right? And trying to show them how to mitigate those risks. So for example, when you create an asset using Midjourney, for example, a 2D asset that is going to end up being in a game, it's worth changing it slightly after you create it using Midjourney, right? Because then you have an ability to correct some infringements that are there. You have the ability to add some creativity to it so that you can claim copyrights in it. I don't want to go into very big depth, let's say, regarding this topic. I will do a shameless plug. I did a talk about this last year, about creating assets using AI. So if you want to see that, it's on YouTube for Digital Dragons. But yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. And I think Jan will say more about consumer law, maybe.
So maybe AI use will be a part of onboarding process in companies in near future to use it wisely.
Yeah, for sure. My advice is actually going to be not connected to any specific area of law. I just wanted to focus on the word governance for a moment, because it means for everyone or any sector of the company, it means a different thing. For us lawyers, it's creating policies and risks assessments and a lot of tables and documents and so on. For finance people, it means an Excel spreadsheet with some algorithms that are going to actually calculate financial risks for them. And for developers, it means blah, blah, lots of paperwork, blah, blah. So now you have to discuss and you have to make this some kind of a common solution. So your developer needs to understand what are the practical implications of the risk-based approach for him, and you as a lawyer, you have to understand that they're not going, or if they can help it, they're not going to sit down with you for hours and create risk documentation. So you need to have a process, and you're going to be required to do this risk documentation because of the AI Act, so you better think now how to do this without engaging too many time of your developers.
Yeah, sure, go on.
Just two sentences, because it's interesting. I would say add to that what gentleman just said one thing. So apart from what you are using and in which business processes, the crucial thing is the purpose of using it. So in the meaning that, for example, you can have a facial recognition system, let's say AI-based facial recognition system, and we can use it just to check who can enter our today's event, and that's pretty obvious, let's say, use. And in the same time, the same system can be used for social scoring, let's say, deciding who's good and who's bad in here.
The Chinese case.
Yeah, so exactly, we have some practical examples of that. And it's pretty much the same with the game industry. So the same system can be used if you ask, let's say we ask ChatGPT how to structure some our games in some elements to make everyone consent and be happy and play longer. And then we try to implement this, let's say, outcome based on the analysis of the data for our gamers or all our players. Then it's not in compliance with the ethical reasoning, probably in some aspects not compliant with the legal aspect, but the same system can be used for something that is just okay. So it depends on how you use it, and that makes the risk analysis from the perspective of AI Act more difficult than it was from the GDPR point of view. So actually, we will not find one solution, let's say, for the simplest system, let's say it's large language models, but we have to ask the organization what for they are using it and how. So it's that's why it's tricky, and that's how it takes more time than it took with the GDPR risk assessment.
Yeah, so would you care to comment on this one as well?
A very quick and short comment. So quite often we tend to focus on game development teams and how they use the AI, and that's absolutely the right focus area, and that's something we have to do. But as Kuba mentioned, well, they are perhaps the parts that's easier to train. They have a technological understanding. But for many companies, it might come as a surprise that back office is also using AI. They might not tell it to the legal teams, especially if you think about AI Act. Suddenly you just hear that the HR team is sending the applications to ChatGPT and ranking them, and then you are in the very deep end of the problems. So this kind of general mainstreaming and understanding where the impact and risks are is hugely important, and it might be that the more biggest risks in your company are not related to games, but on the back office.
That's absolutely true, and I was about to ask you, because we have a lot of players involved in this AI surrounding. We have developers, we have HR, we have legal department. Do you see that there is a practical need to involve all of them in this AI governance process? Because as JP has just said, the risk might not be coming from the developer side, but the organization is, if the organization is quite complex, it might be totally different department. Do you see the need to discuss these frameworks, these policies with other teams as well, as in-house lawyers?
The simple answer is yes. The more complex answer is yes, very much. In general, the worst thing you can do as an in-house lawyer is to sit at your desk behind closed doors for 2 weeks and come back to the company with a policy that is using complex legal language and is 100 pages long. Nobody will read that, nobody will care about those rules. The thing that you have to do absolutely is to talk to the main actors who are interested in the topic, and I'm talking about drafting policies for the company in general, but considering that we're talking about AI, obviously the developers, what are their needs, what are their possibilities in technical terms, what are their possibilities in terms of how much they can put up with.
Human factor is crucial.
Of course. And you mentioned many other departments, of course. It depends on how big the company is, of course, but for the bigger companies, the board of directors will probably want to have a say in it, because it's such a huge topic that
they always want to have a say.
Obviously. The thing is that it's a huge topic that is going to have an influence on how your whole company works and evolves. So the board of directors, sometimes the HR, the other departments that might use certain tools and might have a say in how they want to use them. Your PR or communications team in terms of the ethics, which I mentioned, but also in terms of how you want to communicate your involvement as a company in AI inside and outside of the company, etc., etc., etc.
I couldn't agree more. One thing I would add is that you have to let all other people on all the departments in your company do their own thing in a way, and let them do your thing. So it's important to engage everyone and discuss, but be mindful that they're not going to do this policy for you. They're supposed to tell you what they need, what are the use cases for the AI, but then it's your function to come up with a solution that is written down, and preferably the shorter the better. So
to translate it
precisely into legal wording. But legal wording, again, the policy this is an internal thing. I would dare say that development or gaming industry does not like word policy altogether. If you call it something else, you do a very short, brief document just with bullet points explaining you can do this, you can't do this. It's going to work wonders instead of larger policy if you can help it.
You can use images as well for easier understanding.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, so as our panel is slowly coming to the end, I would ask you for final remarks on the AI governance, and starting with JP, what would be your go-to sentence at the end of this panel?
Start thinking about it now, because we have had these tools existing for almost 2 years now, and now we start to have the frameworks of best practices, and now it's time to act.
Wojciech?
Okay, so I would say that even though it seems like that the AI is like a buzzword and it's coming out of the fridge and actually everyone can hear about it, we talk about it, we discuss it today, but still I do believe it's a game changer from the legal perspective, and that even though it's not for now, but for the reality that will come in like months or years, it will be crucial. And 3 takeaways, the takeaways that I think are the most important. First, that it's not that complicated, and even though sometimes it's like a bunch of procedures, but sometimes, as Jan here said, the email is enough, and to put it in simple words is also possible. The second thing is that I already said that the time is now, so for building it. Third thing would be risk-based approach. So do not over-regulate those areas where you actually don't use AI systems, or you use it in a safe way. And the fourth thing would be, if you have any doubts about it, just try to contact me. You will have my details.
When in doubt, say it out.
In general, gentlemen already summed up what I wanted to say. So we talked about this before our panel started. The AI tools are not going anywhere, right? They're here to stay, and they're going to evolve, and they're going to be used more and more in the industry. So there is no point like saying whether there is place or isn't place in it, for it in the industry, because it's going to happen anyway. So you have to be mindful of the fact that there are not only like the ethical risks or ethical problems connected with it. There are not only artistic values or artistic concerns in it. There are also legal risks that you have to have in mind. And for the developers, or especially smaller developers in here, it's not that complex. And if you have any doubts, seek help at your local friendly neighborhood lawyer.
I would say there are 2 aspects of governance. One, the policies, the review of terms of specific tools. This is what we can do now, but I would say that with current legislation, I don't see a point of AI governance within the meaning of AI Act. These are simply, or most of it are transparency obligations. So you have to do the risks assessments, and then you have to explain to the world what you're doing. And gamers are not interested in your transparency with regards to AI, the same way they're not really interested in your transparency with regards to GDPR. So we should be working on regulations that are saying developers what they can do and what they can't do, instead of creating transparency frameworks. Then we can do proper governance.
Thank you very much, Jan. We've spared some time for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Here we have one.
Hey, my name is Vitaly. I'm a concept artist, but I now have a question not about the art, but like other example. So, Kuba, for example, if you will see that some other companies, teams will create the characters, that you will see that it's recombine the characters from The Witcher. And they will have the amulets, but with other animals. They will have the other names, like battle mages, not the Witchers. But you will definitely see it's the recombination of your character. So what will do company with such situation? How you will regulate this? What you can say?
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so it will all depend on how similar are the creations to what we do in CDPR. If they are close, then obviously we'll want to protect our own intellectual property, and we'll probably send a cease and desist letter, which is based on the copyright infringement. But then again, if there is no copyright infringement or no clear copyright infringement, we have this thing that is called unfair competition. And we can base our let's say, letter on that. However, it all depends on certain situation, right? We don't want to stifle the creativity. We always try to be very supportive of what our community of gamers does. If this is not, for example, a commercial thing.
Commercial.
Well, if it is commercial, then we are talking about something different. But if it's not commercial, then we'll probably turn a blind eye to it. We have, and that's another plug, we have a fund content guidelines, for example, which...
Yeah, but let's talk about the commercial, because it's the question about the commercial regulation. It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if it's as much connected with the topic of AI. I think that no matter if something is created using AI or if it's created by hand, if it's...
Can I add details?
Yeah, sure.
To this question.
Did you do something like that? Because
no,
then, you know, I might not be able to comment in here.
I'm just interested because everyone know, I think, about the situation with the PAL world. Yeah. They definitely take the design of the Pokemon from the Pokemon company that is branded and just recombined it with the AI. So when you see on these characters, you definitely see that it's the Pokemon. It's created with the other professional artist, but they recombine it. How you can comment this situation and what you would do in such situation?
I cannot comment, no, but for real, it's a super complex legal problem because, well, we are going into very deep conversations about what is important in the context of creating a video game which is based on a different IP or which is taking inspiration in a different IP, right? But I don't think there's a simple answer to that. Like, I've seen countless lawyers from many different jurisdictions comment on the case of Palworld, some saying that it's a clear infringement, some saying that it is absolutely not an infringement and they're free to do whatever they can. I've seen a comment from a former general counsel from Nintendo saying that he doesn't understand how they got this far, because when he was a general counsel, it would have been shut down in the matters of weeks or something like that. So I don't want to comment or have a definite comment on this particular case, because there are so many different factors in there that it's impossible to say whether it is or it isn't infringing. Thing is that lawyers will always find arguments for both cases, right? So you have to always remember that, and you always have to remember that you don't have to be right in order to sue someone.
And
you can always be sued. That's not a problem.
That leaves us some space to discuss it over a coffee break, as we are a little bit behind the schedule. I want to thank you again for this interesting discussion. And as Elon Musk said, that pretty much every job could be replaced easily with the use of AI. I truly believe that our lawyer's job would be irreplaceable, as it requires some human factor that AI cannot cover. Maybe that's a wishful thinking, but I'd love to discuss it over coffee. Thank you very much.